All right, so if you haven't seen the previous parts of this video, we had a few things just not go according to plan, which is typically the way these builds go. So I have a choice to make now. Do I want to use 12mm tubes? I think I'm going to. Do I want to use them with the fittings I already had? Well, size-wise, they don't match up, but I discovered some things. So today, if everything goes the way I'm trying to get this to go, you'll see tubing in here. With no parts markup and only a $75 build fee, Redux gaming PCs are the obvious choice for gamers who demand the best without paying extra. With as little as a few clicks, you'll get a PC optimized for you and the games you play at a price that fits your budget, and all Redux PCs are backed by a 2-year warranty. To see all that Redux has to offer and to start configuring your next PC, head to the link in the description below. I might actually try out these EK fittings. These are some of their newer stuff, the Torque series, and I've not actually used them. So if I'm going to use the 12mm tubing that I have right here, which is really clear PETG, and you know what, it doesn't look that bad. When I say that bad, it doesn't look super tiny versus the 13mm. Remember, it is a 0.5 millimeter thickness difference on the wall. They're really clear. This one has actually a big old scratch in it. PETG, man, it's so easy to work with, but it's also so soft. It's just hard to make it not scratch. I've also made a choice on color since the yellow crap that I got just is not, it's not yellow. That's what makes me mad. It's not yellow, it's freaking orange. It looks like Sunny D. Not what I was going for. So I made a color choice on this. And the reason why I know I made my color choice is because I just ordered my custom cables through CableMod, who is our cable sponsor, by using their new configurator 2.0. I know this sounds like a baked-in ad, it's not. I'm just telling you the way I actually came up with the choices here. So here's a picture of what the cables look like. And when I order them, you can choose which cable colors you want them to be, and their new 2.0 actually shows it in more of a 3D rendering, which is kind of neat because you can get a better idea of what it's going to look like. So as you can see, I stuck with the green like I had over here on the last version of Skunkworks, and a very similar orientation. Now you might be asking yourself, Jay, why aren't you just using those cables if you are going to stick with the same color? I decided I'm not going to use the 1600 watt power supply because it's far too long for what I want to do here if I do the pass-through like I said. It's also just extremely overkill in terms of how heavy and stuff it is. So I'm going to be using Corsair RM850X. So I ordered brand new cables to match those particular pinouts. A lot of people don't realize that you cannot just switch cables from one PSU to another, especially across brands, because although they may be the same OEM, whether it be Superflower or Seasonic or whatever it is, the pinouts may not be the same. The internal guts might be, but it doesn't mean the pinouts are. So anyway, that's the color scheme we're going with here. So I have some choices to make, but I have a ton of EK fittings, as you can see. We've had these for a while. I've not done a build with 12mm personally, because my issue with 12mm was always when you bend it, and maybe we'll do a test bend right now because I got plenty of it. When you bend it, if you try and do a real tight bend, then you end up with, because of the thinner wall, it wants to kink. The thicker the wall, the less it wants to kink, but also too, the less tight you can make the bend. So 12mm is actually the thinnest material that you can get. It also should heat up very quickly because it's much thinner. So you see when I applied the heat to it right now, we'll do this in real time without any edits, how long it takes for this to start bending. It's already getting soft, I can already feel it. I also feel like with 12mm, it won't take long for bubbles to appear. So once it starts, there we go. So once it starts to bend, I start to heat around the part that's bending so I can get a nice smooth radius. But I can already see it like wanting to kind of give a crease, which is just not what I want. You also notice too, once it starts to bend, I'm moving it farther off the heat. If I hold it down there, it's gonna bubble and blister, and it will look really bad. It's like thicker and then goes thin, because like I said, the material is stretching to bend, and it just looks awful. I mean, it's not impossible to do this. Look, if you look at it from that angle, you can see how it's squished out. See how it's wider? That's because of the thin 12mm wall. So let me try this bend again. So before I even waste any time, I have to get the bending procedure down right for 12mm. It's just so different than 13mm. It's not even funny. I'm not even gonna be able to use this cutting tool because when you cut it, it crushes it. You'd be shocked at, quite honestly, how much a 0.5 millimeter thickness on the anterior wall is. I guess there's no interior wall, whatever, the wall. So the first core I was using is not a solid core, as you can see, it's just a hollow core. So I grabbed out, well, okay, so this core doesn't fit like in the 13mm or 10 by 13mm Primo Chill tubing very well, but it does fit in this tubing. So I decided to use a solid core because I'm like, the hollow core is gonna squish out some, an oval. This was better, I don't know how well I could pick up on camera, but it's still like bowed out right there. And then when I look at the tube through the light, you can actually see where the bend is. So 12 millimeter, you continue to be on my list, you're out of here. Okay, this is quickly devolving into a lot less skunkworks parts in this system than I wanted. But I do have these 14 millimeter bits power fittings. All my Corsair ones that I had are in other builds, which sort of stinks. But I do have 12 of these, which is plenty to get this build done. But I do have the 14 millimeter tubing that I used in our how to do a water-cooled system video, which is the frosted look. And Nick and Phil and I, bless you, neighbor sneezed. But Nick and Phil and I are thinking maybe the green and the frosted would look neat. It looks pretty cool in the blue that we did. The only thing that sort of stinks though is that like, I wish the cylinder tube for the reservoir was also frosted. So it's a totally different material than PETG, and it's very resistant to bending. It takes a lot of heat. So what we're gonna do is I sent Nick to the store to get some water bottles because we have no clear containers and I need to mix my coolant so that I can pour some in a tube and see how it looks. If it just completely desaturates the green, then we won't do it. And I still have 14 millimeter clear tubing, but we'll see how that looks. We're getting closer to actually being able to do something today. All right, so we got our water here. Actually, it's not water, it's this stuff, the Corsair XL5. Got my green or UV green dye and a UV laser green. I'm just gonna do one drop of the laser green. I'm curious what that's gonna look like. Clearly not enough to dye it, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with the regular green. Where it had a bit of yellow in the green, if that makes sense. Dude, that's so old school looking. I love that color. People are like, why don't you just get antifreeze? I could have, but this is a mix specific for this use case. I love that color. So one of the next things I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the RAM in here because I have to make sure, obviously, I leave myself plenty of room to get the RAM sticks in and out. Why can't it? Got it. Yay! So I wanna make sure that the RAM has plenty of clearance. This is the Vengeance Pro RGB, so let's go ahead and get this in there. I like the fact that it's got the little kind of a translucent top on there because that's just gonna fit. That's just gonna fit with the rest of like the stuff, I guess is the best way to put it. So the challenge here is gonna be, I've only got 3 sticks of this stuff. I don't wanna be like, hey Corsair, can you send me some more? So I'm gonna try and literally make every inch of this stuff count. The PMMA takes so much heat to bend, but it bends very tight and very consistent. So I'm looking forward to this actually. Wait, we didn't determine if we even want to do this. Hold on. I'm kind of liking that actually. I feel like that actually brings more color out. So I just need to bend a very tight 90 now. PMMA is so quickly becoming one of my favorite materials to work with because it takes long to bend, but look at how tight it bends. It's just, and it doesn't blister. I love this stuff. Okay. How tight that is. So now, well, trying to go Forrest Whitaker eye. So I'm just putting some tape on here, just so I can keep an eye on where I want it to bend up towards the rad here. So the bend we're doing right now is coming down from here across the top of the motherboard. Once we clear the rad, it's gonna go up at an angle towards this radiator right here. Science. Yeah, it's about that much degrees. All right, so here's what I came up with. I did have a failed attempt, just one, which sucks because that's a big piece of tubing I don't have now, especially when I'm short on tubing. But I also am using a double swivel 90 over here to get it to line up perfectly because I did miss the height slightly. And I am not gonna try again because I do not have enough fluid or tubing to try again. So let's show you what this looks like in there. There, that's how that one turned out. We have a piece of tubing that's actually in the system. I'm so happy, it only took 3 days. I am trying to bring like a couple of, decent customization. Oh, oops, customization. We don't want that to happen when it's on. I am trying to bring some custom little tidbits to this build because you guys deserve it. So there's that. I showed you guys actually, I'm happy about that. Holy crap. Looking at it from a distance. I do like that I decided to come down and go right parallel with the motherboard heatsink. Dude, I got really lucky too that the fitting height was perfect to make that parallel. You can see how far off I was on that bend. I missed quite a bit. That's okay though. I wanna do the pass-through fittings down here and then do something with this to kind of fill this area. And then getting from the GPU to the CPU, I need to come up with something creative. I didn't use that distro plate in the back, as you can see. I need another fan back here to balance the flow. We're gonna have 4 intakes, 3 exhaust. Granted, the 4 intakes on the front are being reduced on their total CFM and pressure because of the radiator. So we have 3 fans back here, one of which is not being obstructed by anything other than the grate material. So we should end up with positive pressure in here, which will keep things nice and cool and not having any sort of issues regarding negative air pressure pulling dust in from all the gaps. I'm happy with the way this turned out though. I thought that this was gonna look kind of janky. I'm not above using double 90s to make things fit. I did it right here, as you can see, there's one. It's just nice because you can sort of rotate it around to get it to line up where you want, and it doesn't look terrible. But yeah, I think this is actually coming together nice. And then if I imagine, you got a couple tubes coming through the floor right here. Can you even see this with that? You can see a couple tubes come through the floor right there maybe. That'll look kind of neat, right? My only concern is gonna be, I've got 3 8-pin GPU plugs right there, and I need to make sure that I have plenty of room for them to make it to where they need to go. And I did go with all 3 of them being combed together to keep them as straight as they can be, instead of having like 2 8-pins and then they always want to twist and do weird things. So I can have them being as solid as possible. I might have to come up through here or down here. I'll probably come right through here and then up. But if I do that, then I'm gonna have a limited amount of room to get to here before I hit any sort of tubing. I'll come up with some sort of an anti-sag, even if I buy a bracket to sort of hold it up. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm glad we were able to actually get a tube in there. And the nice thing about this being frosted is Phil and Nick, when I mentioned it, both were like, yeah, that'll kind of match the extra sort of frosted look of all these RGB parts. So that's kind of neat. But thanks for watching, guys. I'm sorry that these kind of seem like you only get little bits of updates in the videos, but I hope this is kind of teaching you guys just how much little things kind of don't work out sometimes and how much effort can kind of go into making things happen and trying to be as, I guess, precise as you can without wasting material. And that's what these builds are all about. So I'll thank you guys for hanging out today. Subscribe if you're not already. Click the bell, although I don't think it does anything anymore. But yeah, see you guys in the next one. There's plastic bits in there.